we have to create the right vibe, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at Purely Arsenal FP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to our first edition of a Purely Arsenal sit-down podcast for the 2024-25 Arsenal title-winning season. Neil will be very happy I said that right there because he's always the optimist. And as I just said, I'm joined by regular Neil Shah. How you doing, Neil?
Wonderful, Jack. It's such a good feeling for the season to be back after that little break that we had, didn't we? And there's a couple of tournaments going on. Yeah. There's some sporting stuff going on, Who cares? It's all about Arsenal. We're back, baby. Good to see you, and lovely to have Adam on us again. So, yeah, good stuff. Looking forward to it.
Top stuff. Starting off with a bang. I'm also joined by Adam Keys from the Arsenal Therapy podcast, returning special guest. How you doing, Adam?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on. It's been a while, so I was quite pleased whenever I got the DM for a call-up last night. So, as I said to you, I was going to message you and ask for an invite back on the show because I always enjoy having a good waffle with you and Neil about Arsenal.
Yeah, it's top stuff. It's always enjoyable. I'm doing good. I feel left out a little bit. I didn't get the memo on the Arsenal shirt. I'll remember next time. I'll remember you two boys are, you got the shirts on. I do really like the shirt. I really like the home shirt this year. That one that you're wearing, Adam, I got the feeling my kids are going to like it. I told them it's the Monsters Inc. kit just to sort of swing the deal a little bit, but they do like wearing them at the moment. So we'll see how it goes. But boys, we've got to talk about Arsenal Wolves. First game of the season. I was very nervous. I don't know about you boys, but I was nervous. I was sort of itching about it. I was like, oh God, I hope we settle the nerves early because I was a little bit tetchy, going into the game. But we always talk a little bit of line-up questions if there are. I don't think there's too many. I think the side almost fixed itself. But a couple of the questions sort of the general fan base had before this game, Adam, were who starts in number 6, Partey or Jorginho? Who starts at left wing? I think we all kind of knew Zinchenko was going to start at left back, not because he's our first choice left back, but more because of the players that may well be the first choice, may not be quite ready there yet. But Adam, what were your thoughts on Partey and Martinelli getting the nod?
Nothing with the lineup really surprised me, nor was I that interested in it really. It was one of those, I was saying on our pod, I couldn't wait to see the lineup because I couldn't wait to see Arsenal's first lineup of the season. It was just that step towards the game starting. And I've just got so much faith in the squad we've got now. Whereas 2 years ago, I'd have been clinging to the lineup, thinking who's starting, who's not starting, all those things. But with Thomas Partey, I really thought he was going to start that game. I thought in the Emirates Cup especially looked very good. I probably would have gone with Trossard, but I was more than happy with Martinelli starting. Similarly, I think Jesus could have had a start. So really, it was a nice position to be in. And with left back, I think Zinchenko's been very good in pre-season, Liverpool aside. And Calafiori's not ready. Timber had a couple of weeks out. And Tomiyasu's out. So again, that spot kind of picked itself in this game. But what about you guys? How did you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. Neil, you want to add anything on that? There's been a lot of question marks, especially over the 6. Partey, has he lost his legs a little bit? I agree. I thought he looked a lot better in the last couple of Emirates Cup games, specifically the last one. But Neil, any question marks on that? The left wing does feel like the big talking point almost weekly now. We kind of had it at the end of last season a lot. I'm almost certain of this. We were talking about who would start there. Eventually, Trossard got the nod. What were your thoughts on it, Neil?
If I've got any thoughts, I agree with Adam. I think it pretty much picked itself. Zinchenko had a few good games in the friendlies, and I have a slight feeling that even if Timber was ready or Tomiyasu wasn't unfit, I still think he may have gone with Zinchenko. Actually, I just because he looked pretty enterprising, and maybe Arteta's got other ideas, and I thought he might be on the way out. To be fair. Before the transfers began, but I don't know. I think he might have other ideas with that. So it wasn't so much that position. I did think Partey would start as well because he had his last, especially our last friendly, he looked he looked pretty awesome. I think he bossed the whole midfield, I think, for the whole game. So my only one is the Martinelli Trossard, to be fair. You know how much of a big fan I am of of both the players equally. But I have been having a few doubts about Martinelli of late. And I actually did think that Trossard might play before, or get the nod before Martinelli in this game. I don't know what's happened to Martinelli. I don't know whether it's a loss of confidence. We know the pace is there. That's never going to be in question. And we know that he can maybe beat the first one or two defenders, but then he just does something which doesn't make sense. I don't know. I might be stepping ahead a little bit and going into the game, but there was one chance where he went for the shot, which I don't. Again, it's a bit of this. It's like, if you're going to be a striker or a forward, sometimes you've got to be selfish. The best strikers that have come and gone, they're selfish, because they're the ones that net the 20-plus goals a season. And I do sometimes want more of that in him. But in this particular occasion, he should have fed the ball back to, I think it was Rice, and he didn't. And you could see the frustration. And Rice literally fell on his knees and he was waving his hands in the air thinking, oh, my goodness. So I don't know whether he always makes the right decision or not either. But I love the guy. I want him to do well. But my fear is if he doesn't do well this season, I think he could be one of the ones that we could lose, because he's got to start banging the goals in, and I think he's got to show up a little bit more in that last or final decision that he makes. But other than that, I didn't have any issues with the lineup at all. So no. Yeah, same as you guys, really.
Yeah, agree. I think the only other talking point amongst the squad is the surprise omission of Kivior, who looks like he's heading for the exit door now. We don't know where, but to remove him on a technical issue, no fitness issues. I think Arteta clarified that if there was a concern there. When Tomiyasu isn't even fit, like you just said, and Lewis Skelly was playing for the under-21s yesterday, but I think we all expect him to be promoted to the first team pretty soon. I think that leaves Kivior. I don't think he'll be here. I just don't think he'll be here, which not a surprise as such, but I don't think it leaves us short either. I just hope we get a respectable fee, and I think that's the concern across the board with us. Are we actually going to do this, or are we going to end up dry loaning him out to Juventus for 2 years or something ridiculous like that, which would be very frustrating, because I don't think we've depreciated his value from when we bought him. If anything, it's gone up a little bit, playing in a bigger league, playing in two positions. I think he played right centre-back in his first season quite a lot, and he played left-back a lot last season. Two positions that aren't even in really his position, and I think he's done very respectable. So I hope, we'll get onto the transfer stuff in a little bit, I don't want to deviate off the Wolves game, but I really, really hope that we just get something respectable in there, because we've got to be stronger with these fees, haven't we, with the players? I know we're going to talk about it, but we've got to be. We've done well with Smith Rowe, and then it slowed and lagged a little bit, but we've got a couple of others there. We've got to get that. We're not asking for amazing things here, just get a decent return. We're not asking us to pull a Chelsea or a City and do something dodgy with the books or anything. Just get something respectable in. So fingers crossed. That was a little surprise. I would have expected Kivior to be in the squad personally before the game started. I didn't really think he would be taken out of it entirely. So, but to start the game off, Neil, I'll stay with you. To start the game off, I thought we started really strong, to be honest. They clearly, Wolves are a very well organised team. I quite like Gary O'Neill, actually. I think he speaks quite well, and I do think they were quite unlucky a lot of times last season. I mean, they had just terrible decisions going against them, but they got some really, really tasty players, and I thought it was slightly advantageous to us that Cunha was on the bench and Neto had just been sold, because Chelsea like to sign a player a day. So I thought that was quite a big advantage for us. But Neil, you could see from the start, couldn't you, that Saka and Havertz were just on it. Few little half chances for both of them before we broke the deadlock in the 25th minute or so, which was just a fantastic goal. But those two, Neil, those two are elite, and if we're going to do anything this season, they're going to be right at the front of it, aren't they?
We talk about partnerships that are so important. You've got Gabriel, Saliba, you've got the midfield partnerships, which at the moment, last season were quite solid. If you don't include Partey, he was in and out of the team so much for one reason or the other. But I think someone else was talking about this, that I think that Kai Havertz, Saka are going to form a really good partnership this season. And to be fair, they have to. If we're going to do things up front, we're going to create, and we're going to score, and we're going to cause defences problems. They're the two I think you're going to look for. Again, my worry is, are we too too right-minded, if that makes sense. There's no pun intended. Playing too much of the right-hand side. But end of the day, if the formula works, why not? I mean, it did. Both of them got a goal and assist. And I think that's Kai Havertz. The calendar year hasn't even ended. He's got, in 5 different Premier League games, he's got a goal and an assist, which is equal Robin van Persie's record. But that was for our whole calendar year. We've still got a few months to go. So it just goes to show how much that guy, or how much of an impact he's had since January 2024. He's been incredible. For me, he's been our best player. I'm going to say it. I'm going to call that out. I think since the beginning of this calendar year, he has been our most outstanding player. And what a signing. Absolutely banging signing. But yeah, you're right. I think we were just talking off air before we started the pod. I thought the first half we were really peppering the goal. Yeah, okay, we weren't finishing the chances. There were a couple that Ben White even had as well. Some nice, good
from the edge,
move.
yeah.
Yeah, and a couple of chances he had. He might have been a bit off balance when he took his shot. But, the movement was very good. We looked quite sharp. I was quite surprised because at the end of the day, I don't always take too much with opening games of the season. I don't know about you guys. Because, the Premier League, obviously you had the friendlies to build up your fitness, but the Premier League level fitness isn't quite there yet. And I think it takes maybe 3 to 4, maybe even 5 games to really bed in with that. So I wasn't expecting great things, but I was quite surprised that we were moving the ball around quite fast. We were quite sharp, and bags of chances for good movement from Kai and Saka, which could have led to goals, which unfortunately we just didn't finish off. But I thought we were causing the Wolves' defence problems in early doors, which is a good thing because I agree with you, Jack. I do not think they're a bad side at all. I like them. And I think they're set up really well by the manager. And I thought, people were saying, oh, yeah, we should win that. It's for Wolves, study Wolves. I was thinking, no, don't go into this with complacency. They might give us a bit of a tough ride. And so it proved, didn't they? We only won 2-0. It wasn't like we didn't open the floodgates and then win 5-6-0, did we? But I thought that they were really played well. And it's a good sign going forward that they look like they're sharp and they're ready right from the get-go. And that was encouraging to see.
Yeah, amazing, really, because Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to talk about. Just want to mention before we forget that was a fantastic tribute for Kevin Campbell as well, right before the kickoff.
You're right to remember that. Really so fantastic.
Classy. We lost one of our family, and it was a really 54 years old. He's my age. Unbelievable. I can't believe that he's gone. And I thought that was a really fitting and a classy tribute. Well done.
And absolutely, I mean, I know James is quite close to him in terms of doing the podcast with him, and he seemed like a lovely guy. He always supported our podcast as well. Whenever we tweeted out, he'd make comments quite often. He didn't have to do that. He didn't, know us personally or anything, so that was very nice. But obviously, on a personal level, as a fan, loved watching him play, and he was a great goal scorer for Arsenal. But I love seeing the stuff in the concourse of them singing his name, songs that we used to sing that was just when I started supporting Arsenal, those first few years. So it kind of took me back. It was quite emotional, I thought. So it must have been very emotional in the crowd, especially for fans like you that have watched him play, and for people that know him as well. So as always, Arsenal very, very classy with that, I thought. But just on the game, you said it, Neil, and I think, Adam, we should touch on it. I mean, lots of talk about us getting a number 9, right? Lots of talk. Kai Havertz has scored and assisted for the 5th time in 2024. He's the last player to do it was Robin van Persie in 2011. And we still have a long part of 2024 still to go. So it just shows how fantastic it's been. And the big change there is he's been playing at the 9 since the start of 2024, really, as well. So, Adam, there's a big argument. And when Arteta says it, you don't know whether he's truly being honest with it, but he's like, we've got fantastic strikers and fantastic options, and Kai Havertz is one. He's not clinical always. You saw a couple of chances there where he's not, the Haaland as such, but he offers so much, Adam, and that was a fantastic header and a fantastic cross, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's what I tweeted out yesterday. It's with Kai, he's great in the air. He's always very good at taking a defender for a walk. Takes them to an area they don't want to go, and he's very good at that. He takes them out of their kind of comfort zone. Even if he doesn't win the first ball, we win the second, and suddenly you've got a defender completely out of position, and it really allows us to kill teams. But what he hasn't always been good at is attacking balls aggressively. And I think we saw a change to that. It was his winners against Brentford and Spurs. He went in and attacked both crosses with aggression, with his head. Obviously scored both. And yesterday, that in-swinger from the right half space, the way he attacked that ball, that was a proper nines header. I grew up watching Shearer, then Drogba after that, and they were two players that attacked the ball with venom, kind of really used those neck muscles. And that's what I saw from Kai yesterday. And Neil touched on it right at the beginning, that relationship between him and Saka. That's the first time I've really seen those two linking up together. And it wasn't just the goal. There was early on in the game, Kai played Saka in. It was kind of one of those big gangly leg passes that he does where it was inside the box. He knocked it back to Saka. And there were different moments like that throughout the game. And you're just looking at the link-up play, the way he dominates defenders. And the other thing that I really liked seeing was he was receiving the ball in the half turn and driving in behind. With Kai up until now, we've seen him hold up the ball very well, or he takes a foul and gets a free kick, gets us moving again. But he was prepared to go in behind. And it's these additions to his game that, for me, will allow him to be a top 9. But the whole striker argument for me, I think, it's kind of weak. Jack, me and you talk about it on Twitter quite often. It's the Ivan Toney links. I think Ivan Toney's best season is 12 open play goals. Brentford actually create quite a lot of chances. Arsenal were 5th for big chances created last season. We massively outperformed our XG. And a striker like Ivan Toney doesn't actually guarantee you anything. It's such a lazy argument. And Gyökeres is someone that a lot of fans like, but again, he's proven in Portugal. I've seen loads of strikers over the years. I remember Jackson at Porto, and these guys that really lit up that league.
Darwin Núñez as well, yeah.
Darwin as well, that they come to the Premier League and they just don't perform. Osimhen comes with a lot of injury problems and a lot of baggage as well. And people say, oh, that's what comes with a superstar. I mean, Haaland doesn't come with that baggage. Man City's players don't come with that baggage. And if you're getting an Mbappe, I get the baggage. But we're seeing less baggage come with players nowadays. And you look at the Madrid stars, none of them are coming with a load of kind of temperamental issues. Osimhen is one of the few, and there's a reason that no one's jumped at that opportunity. And for me, the clinical striker term is such a lazy term to throw around because, firstly, I don't think there's genuinely such a thing as a clinical striker because it's all about volume. Haaland misses boatloads of chances every game, but he keeps getting them. He keeps popping up in the right positions. And I think with repetition, Kai will be able to score a lot of goals. I don't think he's ever going to be a Haaland, but what he gives you around the box and how he links up with his teammate is so valuable. So if you replace him with someone else, it's like, what are you going to lose from Arsenal's game? Who else picks up those areas? How do we adapt? Even the things that Jesus does. If you go for a player that doesn't offer them, or you do go for someone like Osimhen, who's not technically gifted, who isn't a player that will be able to give the passing side of the game, the link up, who is very much, he's very like Drogba in a lot of ways. The touch is sporadic. You don't know whether he'll be chasing his first touch or he'll be bodying a defender. All those unpredictabilities are things that Arteta doesn't really like. So I think for the pros that you get to his game, you also take away things to Arsenal's overall game. And I think what Kai's doing at the minute is so valuable. But I think the biggest opportunity for us is to add a wide forward because I still think that we need more pace. There's players out there that I like. I like Odegaard at Brighton. I think he's a profile that you could work with. And there's other players in that area that I think could really improve our team. But with Kai at 9, I just see improvements week in, week out that for me, I think will really see us through the season. And let's face it, one player doesn't win you the title. A striker was the last thing that Pep added. It was the crown jewel he put on top to winning the Champions League. There's still other areas that Arsenal can improve on. And goals aren't a massive issue, even in a game where we were still rusty, but we were moving the ball well. We were creating chances. We could have won that game 5-0. If we're being honest, there was still opportunity. So a striker for me isn't top of the priority list. I think there's a couple of areas that we can improve on first, and the way Kai's growing game in, game out is just, it's incredible. And he's definitely up there with our best players of this calendar year.
Yeah, I just tweeted out who's going to get the number 10 shirt this year. I just thought about it. I was like, where's that going? And a couple of people came back and they went, maybe it will go to Kai if Odegaard. Obviously, Odegaard would get first refusal. He's really the number 10 of the team. He has been for a few years in terms of his technical ability. But someone said Kai, and I was like, might be a good shout, actually. And imagine saying that 6 months, 8 months ago, that Kai Havertz should be the number 10, or even putting it into the equation. You wouldn't have thought, and a lot of people would have shut you down, including myself, for it. I agree with you, Adam. When I look at our strike force, I mean, if you can get the number 9, we were obviously after one earlier, and then fantastic. But when you look at it, I think we've got a lot of ball to feet players. I think Martinelli probably is the exception that likes to run in behind a lot and drive at people. But I don't think when I watch sort of City, and I hate comparing, but they got like Doku and Savia, very, very tricky dribblers that just live for just mugging off their fullback 5-6 times a half. I don't really see Martinelli as quite that player. I think he's a player that likes to run onto the ball into space more than someone that likes to get the ball and take 1, 2, 3 on. And I do think when you look at a Trossard, Jesus, Saka, they're all quite ball to feet players. Give me the ball to feet and I'll do something with it. And they're all fantastic at it, to be fair. But I do think we lack that sort of variety. And I think that's our biggest issue, really. And like you said, we scored a ton of goals last season, but we weren't in the top 4 for chances created. And I think that might be our biggest issue. Can we create enough at all moments of all different games when it's tight? I mean, I think we didn't, for all the goals we scored, we didn't score in 5 Premier League games, which for Arsenal, when they're at the top of the league, is quite a lot. If you look at like 2004 and 2002, that would be quite a lot, right? I mean, notoriously, I think, was it 2002 we scored in every game or every away game or whatever it was. So that is quite a lot for a team like ours and to be at the level we're at. So it's little things like that we've got to look at. And I agree. I think we need to look at adding a different component, someone that's got a little bit more of an X factor, basically a bit more of a risk taker, but fantastic. I mean, Kai Havertz had 5 shots yesterday. Saka had 5 shots yesterday. We had 18 in total as a team, but they were really the centre of it. I know, Neil, you mentioned Martinelli having that one in the first half where he cut back and he should have laid it to Rice probably. And that's, again, just a little bit of the head down stuff with Martinelli. Just got to raise it. I do think he's a little bit of a confidence guy too. If he pops one in, suddenly I feel like they'll come in droves, Martinelli. But it feels like he's been a little bit low on confidence for a while, and it's kind of knocked on from the end of last season. Obviously, he went to Copa America, barely played. I don't think that did him any favours either, because he's got obviously top players ahead of him like Vinicius Junior and stuff like that. But overall, our play, Neil, in the first half was quite good. It kind of mimicked sort of a little bit, in a sense, what I saw from the first game last season against Forest. I thought we were terrific in the first half against them. But, Neil, we did have a few tetchy moments at the back. A couple of times people got in behind Zinchenko. Saliba didn't look quite himself on the ball. Gave the ball away a couple of times in the first half, once in the second half to Cunha, who should have done a lot better. But Neil, when we did give it away and we did give up chances, while I was annoyed, our goalkeeper did exactly what he was supposed to do, didn't he? He made a fantastic save, especially in the first half.
Oh my God, he's commanding the players. I don't know if you noticed. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I missed it last season, but I saw that he was commanding his defence a lot more. He never came across as massively vocal to me. But his finger pointing and trying to arrange his defence and get them when an attack was about to happen, he was there. He was organising everything, and I just think that he's grown on me so much. Like Adam mentioned there, that Kai's getting better game by game. Raya, in the same aspect, is growing on me game by game. I was one of those guys, I've said it so many times to you, Jake, probably bored of me hearing it, that wasn't so, nothing against Raya, but I was unhappy with the way Ramsdale was initially treated. I didn't think Ramsdale had done, all right, he had his flaws, but, we could have done a lot worse in a goalkeeping sense, where Ramsdale showed up so many times with some incredible saves. So I wasn't quite sure what that all was about, but now, my goodness me, the foresight of Arteta and Edu and the scouting team and whoever else was involved in getting in Raya, and we know that Arteta was a fan of him way before Ramsdale even was a thing. What a decision he's made. He was fantastic, and there was a couple of saves later on in the second half, but that one which he made to deny a 1-1, which could have changed the whole atmosphere and dynamic of the stadium, by the way. And that could have really got us nervous. You know, you were talking about how the fans might not have been so vocal in the second, and that was being at 1-0 up. Can you imagine if it had gone to 1-0? And that was all rare. I don't care. I mean, it was a great move by Wolves. It was a great ball in, by the way, and it was a great header. He could have actually planted it in the near post, but he didn't, because he knew that Raya was kind of covering that with his body shape. So he went for the far post. And even then, the agility of Raya, you see that is that picture that I saw on Match of the Day. Adam, you might have seen it as well, where there's a still shot of him and his body's like almost contorting to grab that ball with his right hand. And what a strong hand. It just unbelievable, Jack. It was a world-class save. It might even be the save of the season already. And it was our first game of the season. You know, it could well be. But if he's going to do stuff like that, it really helps. I've always said, if you've got a good goalkeeper that can save you points throughout the season, it doesn't just help with our points tally, but it also helps with the defenders in front of him, because then they get the confidence that, you know what, if we make mistakes, bit much like Saliba did, and I think you're right, Jack. I think that's one of the poorest games he's had, because he made some real bad decisions and mistakes. I mean, even for the goal, I think, you know, it was him, wasn't it, that the defender, the attacker got away from to make the header. I'm not saying that's Saliba's fault. I'm not sure he could have done much more about it, but you know, throughout the game, he made some bad decisions. But if you then know that your goalkeeper's there to save you or to save the team, that can only make you more or motivate you to get better. And it's a two-way relationship with goalkeepers and defenders, I think. If the goalkeeper's doing well, it improves the defender's confidence, and vice versa. If you've got a good defensive unit and a solid net there, if you like, as a defensive net, your goalkeeper's going to have that confidence as well. So it's a two-way symbiotic relationship for me. And I think Raya he's going to be here. I think he's going to have a really good season, a really outstanding season, if that is anything to go by. Because as you said, he made some other good saves later on in the half, where we made against a few defensive errors, and he came to our rescue. So I'm so pleased with the signing. Unbelievable. And look, in a way, we've got the money back for him straight away. 27 million to get him to a permanent, but we got 27 million for Emile Smith-Rowe, so it's a net zero in those. So to be honest, we haven't even had any outlay for him this season so far. So wonderful signing. I'm so happy.
Yeah, no, he was fantastic in this game. I know, Adam, it might be the one thing we might slightly disagree on. You still feel maybe in the future Arteta's looking for his sort of Alisson or Edison. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I tend to feel this is the guy. Do you know what I felt? Yes, last season I always felt, wow, this player's come in. He definitely had little touchy moments, and he may well do again this season. But I always felt no one really spoke enough about how he had no pre-season last season, and he came in like the sixth game. I know you like Raya, and I don't want to have to necessarily get into that, but it's a big season for him, isn't it, Adam? Because he was, I thought, very good, and he grew into the team last season. They clearly trusted him, but obviously a lot of people question him on the stuff that he did against Wolves, the shot stopping and things like that. Does he really make that many saves? Well, he certainly did in this game, didn't he?
Yeah, just nearly everything you said, I completely agree with. I nearly give you a round of applause midway through. So, yeah, absolutely smashed that analysis there. I love David Raya. He's someone that I know a lot of fans were kind of juries out early doors and still very much on the Ramsdale train. Jack, you and I got on the Raya one very, very fast. He's a keeper that I really love. In terms of my feeling about looking for a replacement, I don't think he's looking for his Ederson. I think he's got his Ederson. I think he will keep going until he gets his Neuer. That big,
that type plan,
6'4", all round, can dominate the box, can pluck crosses out of the air, and can flick it up, do some keepy-uppies, and kickstart a counter. So I think that's the keeper that Arteta will keep going until he gets. That's a complete unicorn, and I think if he gets that, but I don't think Raya has got any kind of worries in the next few years unless someone like that comes along. But interestingly, against Wolves last season, I think it was against João Pedro or João Nunes, he was running through on goal, Raya made a massive save against Wolves away, and that was at 0-0 in that game. He flicked it onto the post. It stopped us from going 1-0 down. And that was a huge game for us in our run-in last year, because if we didn't beat Wolves, I think we completely collapsed in the run-in. Yeah, well, on Saturday in the game, that save at 1-0, as Neil mentioned, there were nerves creeping into our game. I think the crowd would have suddenly become very, very uneasy. And what's interesting about this save, I think it's one of those really weird ones that when you make the save, everyone bigs it up. It's an incredible save. The body contortion and everything that goes into it. But at the same time, I think if it hadn't have been saved and it went in, he would have got a lot of criticism for it. It's one of those really weird ones that, because it's going kind of barely central, you end up getting criticized for something that's really, really difficult. And yeah, I think these are the things that really win you over with kind of the media and fans that are in doubt, because everyone can see what he does with his feet. It's the long game, the short game. His medium range passing is also incredible. His ability to pluck the ball out, but it's the aggression that he attacks the ball with. Like, time and time again, he kills something way before it happens. Whereas with Ramsdale, we would see him kind of bouncing around on the spot. Does he go for it? Does he not? And that creates doubt with defenders. And that's something that, if you're Saliba and Gabriel, is your keeper going to come? Do you have to deal with it? With Raya, they know he's going to attack that ball in the air. He's going to pluck it out of the air, and he's going to look to get us forward. Ramsdale would lie down on the ball, and again, everyone comes flying out. Raya gets it. His first thought is, can we get away? Can we score again? If not, if the game state doesn't allow for that, he will lie down and calm things down. And I think the trust that he's got in his back four now is very high. And then with his shot stopping, that wasn't the only save. He made another one later on in the game. And those two things on the opening day, I think it was a clean sheet. And as you mentioned, Saliba was very poor today. He gave the ball away 3 times with very poor passes. I thought Gabriel was shaky. Ben White was okay. I thought Raya got us that clean sheet. It was very much him. And that's been one of the criticisms of him. And I think it's a bollocks criticism, because a keeper not making enough save and winning the Golden Glove, it's like, yeah, he played a massive role. He earned that clean sheet. He got us that clean sheet. And that's a huge way for him to start the season. Because, as you say, he didn't have a pre-season last year. And not only, he came in pretty difficult circumstances with a situation that Arteta manufactured and, in my opinion, handled pretty poorly, even if he got the right decision in the end. And I think that did affect Raya's early performances. But he came out in the Emirates Cup and he looked like our number one. He looked like the player that we needed back. And then I thought he just carried that straight into the Wolves game. And again, he hasn't really had a pre-season. He came back a few days early. And I know you were a bit critical on Twitter of Jack of Ramsdale. He wants to win his place back, didn't play for England, took his full holiday, whereas Raya's back 3 days early, ready to go again. And he actually did play in the Euros, went to the final. And it's that kind of dedication of, I want to go, I want to make sure I'm making my stamp early in the season. And he did exactly that against Wolves.
Yeah, I was tremendously frustrated with Ramsdale. Sorry, go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, I think Adam, you nailed it there. I think you remember last season he won the Golden Glove, and I think quite rightly so. There's an argument that yes, he did, but the defense was so good. Our defense was so damn good that helped him win the Golden Glove. But you're right. This game alone is an example, a clear example, where he has earned that sheet all by himself. Totally agree with that. That's spot on. And the other thing you said, I think the big difference for me between Ramsdale and Raya, and Adam, you summed it up there, is Ramsdale was reactive, Raya is proactive. That's the difference.
Yeah, he's got a maturity, hasn't he? He doesn't have to be involved. You always felt like if we were comfortable in a game, Ramsdale would do something to try to get himself. Chesney had this when he was young as well. Do something to try to get himself his role. But we can have a 0.0 XG to our goal. The ball can go nowhere near it for a game, and Raya is completely delighted with it. And that's the maturity of the guy. He'd be like, the quieter day for me, the better. Whereas Ramsdale, he needed something in the game to get involved, and that created a little bit of anxiety and panic in the back four, despite the fact they loved him and etc. etc. I agree. I don't think Arteta handled that moment very well, but he obviously saw an opportunity in the market to get the goalkeeper that he perhaps had always wanted. What do you think, Adam? I'll go back to you. What do you think was the issue? I want Neil's take on this one as well, though. On the second half, the first 20-25, Wolves clearly came back into the game a little bit. I don't think our midfield really functioned that well. The combination of Partey and Rice. Don't think Rice was fit personally, and I personally feel the combination of Zinchenko and Partey basically shouldn't happen. I feel it's far too vulnerable defensively. I don't think they're switched on enough defensively, like for turnovers and things like that. And I just don't think it can work in games where, maybe it can work in games like this. Obviously it did. We got away with it. But I think in games that are coming, for example, I don't think we can do it. I think you've got to make a call on one of them, basically. I don't know. What were your thoughts, Adam? Because I don't think it quite worked.
Yeah, I think with Thomas Partey, it was a really weird game. First half, I text my mate at halftime saying this is a really weird Partey performance. 1 minute he looks really smooth, and the next he looks a yard off the pace. And it was really hard to nail because you didn't know what he was going to do next. First half, I thought Zinchenko was okay. Overall, to be honest, I thought Zinchenko was okay. I didn't think he necessarily did enough to get dropped for the next game, nor did he do enough to nail on his starting place. But Thomas Partey in the second half, and I don't think it was just him that was the issue. As we mentioned, Saliba was poor, Gabriel was shaky, Ben White wasn't at his best. Declan Rice needed this game to play his way in. He started against Lyon, but against Leverkusen, he comes on, steps on the ball, and that was kind of his contribution. So I think he really needed this as a fitness exercise. But Rice completed all of his passes. I think he only had 26 passes. He was very much on the periphery of the game. He had a couple of good moments, that pass into Martinelli that he should have got back and probably hits the target. He had a very good chance to score from another cutback. I think that was a Saka cutback. But Rice, he just didn't look himself. And I think with Thomas Partey, when you've got that, all those dynamics around him not quite working, it wasn't just him. So I'm prepared to give him a bit of a pass on this performance because I don't think it was just him. But at the same time, Thomas Partey had, I think, 50 touches, attempted 37 passes, completed 33. That's not enough for my six. If you're going to drop in between the centre backs to get the ball, you need to be hitting kind of 100 touches at home, hitting maybe 80 passes in a game like this, not 37. And that's just not enough. That's not enough dominance in the game. So it's a very weird one with Partey because if I'm being completely honest, my preference would be to sell and replace. The issue is there's no buyer, and as long as he's an Arsenal player, I think he still adds value. But there are only certain games I want him and Zinchenko on the pitch together. There's also only certain games I think I want Thomas Partey on the pitch for, because for all the talk of Rice not being a six, I think you look at that England team during the Euros where he's got a lot of criticism and it was just completely disjointed. You've got two fullbacks holding the width, no one coming in to play in the centre of the park, big gaps everywhere. Arsenal don't play like that. You put a Calafiori or a Jurriën Timber or a Zinchenko in left back who's going to step in, Ben White stepping in as well. Suddenly Rice has got loads of options to pass to at the base. If we get Mikel Merino, he's got someone ahead of him that's a good, aggressive ball progressor, another duel winner, and you've got Odegaard in the team next to him that can pop up anywhere and basically do whatever roles asked him. Odegaard can be a deeper line 8. He can be a 10 in its traditional sense. He can play as a second striker if you want him to. But with Rice playing at the base, you've got the options in our team to make sure you maximise Rice's talent. And that's before you look at what he does out of possession. And that's where his true strengths are. There's no one better in the world than Declan Rice out of possession. And if you play him there, you basically shore up our back four. With Thomas Partey, it's, you know, if he's turning to run back towards his own goal, we're in trouble. He's not winning a foot race. He's also, he's now so slow at turning. His agility's got so bad. If someone's passed him, they've got 3 or 4 yards before he's even started running straight. And that's a problem. So you get the positives with Thomas's game with kind of the vertical passes, the line breakers, but there's also a lot of downfalls with his game. And between him and Zinchenko, I think, I don't want to be too harsh because, as Neil mentioned earlier, it's the opening game. You never really see the rhythm of a team. It's about getting 3 points. So I don't want to be too critical, but I think we're seeing the same trends that we saw last season, the same errors from both players as well. So, yeah, it's a hard one there. I'm not completely sure what will be the solution with Thomas this season.
Yeah, it doesn't feel likely that we'll move him on. Neil, do you have concerns sort of, you know, with the games, obviously we've got a very hard start to the season. Do you have some concerns with the games coming of playing certainly those two players together in terms of our defensive vulnerability, or do you think that they're good enough to get away with it? I get the feeling Adam's right. I get the feeling when better opposition come up against them, we'll see their defensive vulnerabilities, and it could cost us, to be honest. And usually, I mean, big games last season, other than the tail end of the season, he would go back to Jorginho at the base and you know, oftentimes Tommy Yasu at left back. Now, obviously, we've got more options, but I just wonder what your thoughts are.
Well, firstly, Adam has summed it up brilliantly there, so there's not much to add. All I will say is I'm not worried. I'll tell you why. Number one, I don't think Zinchenko is going to be playing as much as we might be concerned about when it comes to his defensive abilities, because we've got the new guy, we've got Timber, Tomiyasu, we've got 3 players that could come in and probably step in for most of those games where otherwise Zinchenko's going to fall in and get that place. There's no disrespect to Zinchenko. He's not a defender in my eyes, never has been, and I don't think he ever will be. He's more of a midfield player, and I just don't think we're going to have any concerns. If we had no one in that position, then I think I would be very concerned. But because we've got 3 players, not just one or two, I can't see it. I can't see us having any issues there. And the fact that he did bring Timber on in the last 10 or 15 minutes, that has given me, it's almost like an indication that he's looking to be playing him quite soon. If maybe even starting the next game, we don't know. He possibly could do. With Partey, I thought it was a bit of yin and yang with Partey, because although he made a few mistakes, there was some bits that he did in the match which I was quite impressed with.
Oh, Neil may have paused there. Sorry.
Brilliantly through a couple of defenders. What a great touch that was. He's always forward-thinking, Partey. That's the thing I like about him. Whatever mistakes he's making, he's always forward-thinking and trying to progress the ball. That is his game. And I still think, guys, I don't know whether you agree, if he's on song and he's on form and he's having a damn good day, I don't think there's many players in the league that are better than him. I really don't. And the way he can command the whole midfield. So, Adam, I agree with you. Whilst I can't see him going, but we're having him there, it will be an asset to the squad. For sure. That's the way I see it. And then there was that other time where he made a mistake and then he still managed to, he tracked back and then he got involved in, a transition going forward from there. But what I liked about him a positive that I saw about him, despite his errors and giving the ball away, the second goal was all from his clever thinking of taking that free kick quickly. I can't say that without getting my tongue tied. But that was from his quick thinking, where he laid it off to Kai Havertz very, very quickly, and obviously then Saka did the rest. So again, you know, they're pluses and ticks. And again, just to reiterate what Adam said, it's the first game of the season, guys. Let's not be too over analytical about the players. They're still not quite up there and finding their form. And Rice, yeah, he just wasn't fit. Look, he fell down with cramp, didn't he, near the end of the game? He just wasn't fit. You think about, you know, we're dismissing the fact that players like Rice, Raya, Saka, and a few others have been on international duty. They haven't really had a break yet, like some of the others. They're not completely refreshed, so you can't expect them to be bang on form and song in the first game of the season. So I don't.
Sorry, we're having a couple of little pauses here.
Quite quickly, and we'll be fine. That's where I see it.
Yeah, sorry, a little pause there. It always comes up after about 40 minutes. Apologies. No, I don't think it will happen again, but I'll keep an eye on it. I agree with you. I agree. I think Thomas Partey's a really weird one, isn't it? Because we know how much he loves playing Thomas Partey when he's fully fit, but you can tell that he's not quite the Thomas Partey, certainly not in transition where we can rely on him physically. And obviously you can't really rely on him fitness-wise. But Declan Rice actually looked a little bit like this at the start of last season because the transfer took a while to go through and he didn't have a full pre-season with us either. So if you remember, I think Forest, we played Forest first game last season and in the second half they scored, and it was really Declan Rice legs had kind of gone by that point when they broke on us, and this is what it felt like in this game. I was like, he just looks not fully fit yet, but I think Adam's right. I mean, you saw City, they rested Rodri and everyone's like, oh, look at City resting their players from the Euros, and I was like, yeah, first of all, they've got a corrupt built squad, but secondly, the Rice needs those minutes. I mean, he's one of those guys that just needs, once he's fully fit, you realise so much athletically, far more than Rodri, to do what he does. He needs those minutes. He just looked like he was running through treacle in that second half where we were struggling a little bit, and I think our midfield just didn't really have the legs, and we were just getting transitioned a little bit too easily. But it'll be very interesting to see how much he uses Thomas Partey, especially with this midfielder coming in and how he transitions Rice back. What I find the most interesting part of that is, if I believe you guys are right, I think Rice will eventually move back to the 6, is if we flip the way we invert, because Rice naturally kind of draws himself to the left side of midfield, whereas Partey does it to the right. So in theory, you're going to have to invert Ben White or Timber and play a more typical sort of left centre back at left back kind of thing. So that will be quite interesting to see how he plays that, because that's what we tried to do at the start of last season, didn't we? Try to invert Partey and play Rice at the 6 and Havertz at the 8, etc. He still wants to go back to that, I believe. So let's see how it goes. Sorry, there's a little pause there, I think. Apologies. But just the second goal, Adam, a fantastic goal. I'll go to Neil on it as well. Individual piece of brilliance. I know Partey took the free kick fast, like you said, and Havertz played the ball, but it's an individual bit of brilliance. I thought it deflected. I don't know about you boys, but I was like, that must have deflected, but it didn't. I don't think it touched anyone. Just went straight in, and Saka again with a screamer on the first day of the season. Bit like last season, Adam. He is inevitable, isn't he?
Yeah, it was. It's funny. I'm just seeing Neil nodding his head and smiling. So it was just. I love Bukayo Saka so much. It's one of those that every time that we need someone to step up and have the first kind of really agitate a game and do something, grab it by the balls and really force something, it's Saka that does it time and time again. And I know Odegaard's a real conductor in the team, but Saka's the one that, how often do you see him get the first goal, the first assist, the first chance created, first shot away? It comes from Saka. And again, we saw it with the cross for Havertz. We had seen that cross a couple of times before it. I just thought he was a menace from the off. And again, Rice isn't fit. Saka's played the same number of minutes as Rice, and he's come back in. He looks really, really sharp. And the goal itself, I was the same. I thought it took a deflection. I was watching it with, I'm not sure what language the commentary was in, so I couldn't tell if there was a deflection or not, but I was watching it back to try and see if there was a deflection. But we saw that finish against West Ham last season where he opens his body like he's going to go across goal like he always does, and bang, straight in the near post. And there was just so much venom on the strike. He bends it kind of outwards rather than round, and uses the defender. You see Odegaard jumping away from it. Just a beautiful finish with so much power and pace on it. The keeper had no chance. And I think this season, the one thing I want to stop is this star boy bollocks. It's right, Saka's a superstar now. He's not a boy. We need to treat him like that. He's carrying this team on his shoulders. 4 years ago, yeah, fair enough, but I think we're overprotective of him, and he doesn't need it. When Thierry Henry was his age, he went to the Euros, the Confederations Cup, then the World Cup, then the Confederations again, and then the Euros. We didn't say, oh, we don't have an Henry backup. He went out and he played year after year after year. And I think there is that thing that we need more. We need an extra piece of firepower that allows him to come off 10 minutes into a game before a game ends. A bit like what City do as well. If there's a game we don't need Bukayo Saka, someone can sit in that position. Maybe Jesus does it. Maybe Martinelli does it, but we add another winger that we can have that's playing regularly. But I think we also have to accept that top players play a lot of minutes. Mo Salah plays every game for Liverpool in every competition. If you look at the great Madrid players, great Barca players over the years, even the great Chelsea players, they played a lot of minutes. And same when United were winning everything, their star players played all the time. Saka actually looks like he's more than capable of doing that. And during the Euros, I read a really interesting article, and it said about Saka places huge kind of importance on his recovery after each game. So the first thing he did whenever he arrived at the England camp was go around and look at the facilities that were in place to enable his recovery, whereas every other player went straight in to look at the games room and all that and kind of have a chat with their teammates. So I think for a player at 22, he's just so advanced in his thinking that he's able to do that. And I think this season we're going to see him play a lot of minutes again, but I think Arteta's also getting better at knowing when he needs a rest. And similarly, I think Saka's going to get better at saying to Arteta, I'm feeling it a bit here. I don't need to play the last half an hour against Ipswich at the Emirates when we're 4-0 up. And we did see that in the second half of the season. When we were blitzing teams last season, Saka came off at half-time against Sheffield United. And that was something that a year before that, Arteta would have kept him on the pitch for 90 minutes. So I think we're starting to see the two of them get better in their understanding of his usage. But performance-wise, he was just exceptional on Saturday. Really, really good. And I could just watch him every day. It doesn't matter who we sign each season. The player that I want to watch is Bukayo Saka.
Yeah, no, he was absolutely fantastic, and credit to him when he's had very little break. So, but yeah, it was good to see him come off early. At 2-0, basically whipped him off straight away after that goal, and to shift Martinelli over to the right, which is a little bit of a theme since the end of last season, that he started to move Martinelli over to the right. I mean, he never did it until the end of last season. I think City away, he started to do it maybe a few games earlier, and then he started to kind of do it on a regular basis when Martinelli wasn't starting, was using him at right wing, and I thought, that's interesting. And he's continuing to do it, and I don't know if that's a sign of what might happen towards the end of the window, but let's see. But yeah, in the end, comfortable victory after that point. I thought we started to, once Timber came on, I know he had one little error on the ball, but I thought he looked really quite good. Timber, so lively going forward, isn't he? Always, just so much energy about him, great pace about him, really great feet. Plays like a midfielder, a fullback, but I think he's got a lot more defensive coverage personally than Zinchenko, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens at Villa. I want to just give you predictions for Villa, but just before we do, looks like we're going to sign a midfielder this week. Neil, I know you don't like to jump the gun, but Moreno, it's been like the longest transfer saga of all time. I mean, it's kind of getting to the point where we've kind of talked him to death, but looks like he's going to come in and sort of feel that. He's very much a sort of Xhaka mould left 8 role, but dual winning, aerial winning. And what I like to do is, I always do this with players that I don't know that well, is just sort of listen to fans of the club and what the sort of hierarchy of the club, and they seem like they're basically talking about losing like just a huge player to Sociedad. And when you've got the likes of Kubo and Zubamendi in that team, and they are so sort of devastated to be losing this player, I think it's a sign of we might have signed a really, really experienced, good player that's, I think, is going to come in and play a lot of starting minutes personally. Neil, what else do you think we could do in this. We need to do something in the front line, don't we? Need to do something. We've spoke about at the start of the pod with Adam. We need to do something there, and we're struggling to shift players there, and that's my worry. I personally think we should have taken the money with Eddie. I think if we do get money for Eddie, I bet you it's not massively dissimilar to what Marseille offered anyway. I could be wrong on that. I'm not seeing it. Everyone keeps saying, league clubs are interested, but there's no real offers there. Marseille were offering time and again, and we turned it down, and I'm not sure it's going to be the correct decision. It definitely is not the correct decision if we don't address the forward, because I think we're one short of quality up there, Neil. What do you think?
I tend to agree. I mean, Adam, you kind of alleviated my fear about Saka by mentioning the great Thierry Henry and how many games he played. Because I'm always one that was thinking that we'd have to get cover for him, because he just can't go on and on and on. Because it's not just the season with Arsenal. He seems to be in the last 3 years. They played every game for England, and we've had quite a lot of that, haven't we, as well? So it's like the guy doesn't rest. And every time I see him go down, I think, right, he's going to be out for a couple of games or a few games. Never does, does he? He's just dumbfounds me, this kid. It's incredible that you think surely this is going to have to come to a point where he'll miss a few games, whether that be injury or just fatigue. No. He will come back and he'll get the numbers. And even if he has a bad game, he still gets the numbers. So you guys have said it. Said that he's on, I don't know how many Weetabix or shredded wheat he eats a day, but he's on something, and it's amazing. He's one of the... I think I felt that kind of nervousness, guys, because Arsenal have always been known for those key injuries at the wrong time every blooming season. And it's like, maybe I am being overprotective just because we've been so used to that we have a good season and then it's always one key injury that completely derails it. And it's like, surely, but Saka just is not that player. I think you're right, Adam. I think he just can keep going and going. And more than that, he wants to keep going and going. That's the key thing. He wants it. He just wants to be involved in every game and wants the action. But I think, again, also what you two said, I think Arteta is managing him better now. And he is taking him off when he should. So with regards to, I was like you, Jack. I think we need to get cover for him. But I think when he does come off, maybe Jesus can take that position there, because I think Kai is the 9. He is the false 9, or whatever you want to call him. He is that player. And I think Jesus' role could be more suited to being that cover role for Saka. However, having said all of that, let's be honest. If Eddie don't go, which is just... I don't understand this Eddie situation. Why haven't we got rid of him yet? I know that I'm not saying that with disrespect to the player, but I think it's a good move for both parties, including Eddie as well. But if he doesn't go, we're not going to get anyone in that forward line, I don't think. For us to do that piece of business, we need to shift Eddie. If that doesn't happen, it's not happening, guys. And that's my opinion. I could be wrong. But I don't see how that will work with having another forward there with Eddie still in the squad. Just doesn't make sense, because I think he's on a fair wage as well, isn't he? So we've got to find a way to balance the book somehow. Right, exactly. So if Eddie does go, then I think we definitely need someone up front. But I don't know whether that has to be... I think it should be someone who's a bit more versatile. You've got, people like Eze have come up in the past. I'm not good with names. I'm not going to... Please don't kill me for this. But someone who can play maybe both sides, a bit like Eze can. He can play both right and left-sided. I think that we need someone who's a little bit maybe versatile. I was always thinking that we need that goal, that poacher, that finisher, that Drogba player. Adam, you mentioned Drogba a little bit earlier in the pod. A strong, powerful guy that can finish and always is reliable as a poacher as well. And it's just a menace. But I think we've got him with Kai. Maybe he's not clinical as we might want to like in terms of every single chance he gets. But I think we've got that player in Kai. So I'm not quite sure. But if there's going to be any improvement in the squad, it has to be at the front line. I agree with you too. And look, if Ramsdale stays, he's a good number 2. So we don't have to worry about that number 2 position anymore.
Yeah,
so
exactly. I'm agreeing. The goalkeeper, I just wouldn't give a second thought to it. If Ramsdale really wants to move, I know it's a big wage for a second goalkeeper, but at the end of the day, he's probably the best second goalkeeper in the league alongside Ortega. So don't push it unless that wage is really stopping us moving elsewhere, which I don't think it is. I think it's more the Eddie Nelson, other players, the squad being a bit thick elsewhere. But Ramsdale, if he really wants to move, get his dad on the blower and get him start pushing out to the clubs. Do you know what I mean? Let his dad do the work, get him on a few podcasts. But we don't need to be worrying about it at this point. If as soon as he starts moving, it looks like it. Ideally, get someone to pay the fee for him. But I think a loan would make sense a lot for Ramsdale because his value would go back up. But unless that starts moving, don't worry about it and look to the other positions. Adam, it looks like we're kind of focusing on the left half space, left side, right? Left back's been signed, left centre back, left midfielder looks like he's coming in. My opinion is we've got to finish it off with a left winger that can play, maybe can cover right too, but it needs to be someone that can, at the very least, you can be thinking, if this guy bangs and is really good, we can start him on the left wing, and that's now you get the really good player in, whether he's young or experienced, I don't really mind, but can we get that player in? Do you have any thoughts, Adam? Will we get that player in, or are we going to be left wanting another winger again for another window? Because let's be honest, I think we thought this last window that we needed a winger and we never got him in. Will we do it, Adam? Something there that's better than Eddie and Nelson to the very least?
Hopefully. I think last year we really wanted Kudus. I think that was one that, from the reports, it looked like he wanted Arsenal. We were really keen. We just couldn't do that deal with FFP. I mean, he would be perfect for us. He really would be the perfect signing because he's someone that if you needed him to, he could play through the middle, play on the right, he can play on the left, he can even play in midfield. So that kind of profile I would love to see. I think Neil's right, it does depend on Nketiah. The hard thing is he's on 100k. I really genuinely have no idea what's going on there, because you see clubs being linked and it feels like everyone is using Eddie Nketiah as a smokescreen for who they really want, which is frustrating because I think Eddie's a good player. I think he would do very well at the right club. But what's been really frustrating about both him and Reiss Nelson is the amount of interest we heard early in the window. And I understand Arsenal need to change their perception of selling, but at the same time, we maybe need to be a bit more proactive in how we flog these players. And both players are on about 100k a week, which is a massive wage for a squad player. Yeah. And that's the hard thing in getting rid of them. But at the same time, with Reiss, I've never understood that deal, because Arteta clearly didn't see the need for him in the squad. I think he just wanted to keep him. With Eddie, I still believe that was the right decision at the right time, because I don't think we had the funds to go out and buy another striker to replace him. So yeah, the wage was high, but if you look at that, that's 5 million a year in wages. And yes, it's hurting us a bit now, but he scored a lot of big goals for us over the years. He's a Hill End graduate. He's done very well for the club. Unfortunately for him, the level's just gone past his ceiling, and that happens in football. But for me, if we can bring in a wide player that can play across the positions, that's perfect. I think Pedro Neto would have been the perfect profile, but Pedro Neto is always injured. And I don't think he's good enough to justify the number of games he misses. So I think a lot depends on who goes with what we bring in. I think if Eddie goes and Jesus does become a winger, then if someone like Gyökeres is available on a reasonable fee and not the 85 million that we're hearing.
They're selling him as well, by the way, because they're trying to sign Barcelona's striker, aren't they, right now? They're trying to sign
Roque or
yeah,
something?
they're literally, they might even sign him in the next day or two, because I'm seeing the links come up right now. But so they're going to sell him to someone, because why are they signing that striker? I mean, in theory anyway, but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Sporting aren't a team that are going to have multiple players in that position. They can't afford it financially. But yeah, I think it all depends on the fee available. As I said earlier, he comes with risk because he's unproven outside, in any of the big leagues. But for me, it would be a versatile forward. I think that's the player that helps take some of the strain off Saka, because Arteta's not going to play a backup. Reiss Nelson's a perfectly adequate backup. The issue is Arteta's not going to trust someone that's not getting regular minutes. And it's catch-22 with Arteta. you're not going to get the minutes if you're not proving yourself, but he's not going to throw you in if you've not proved yourself. So it's one of those he trusts who he trusts kind of thing. And that's why I think if there's not someone available who instantly raises the level, don't go for a lesser option. Go for a player like Adingra who could be developed over the next year.
Yeah.
But they fit the kind of profile needs that we need. And for me, the big one is pace. We've only got Martinelli that can really run away from a player. Add someone else in, because Martinelli has had injury problems over the years. I just want to see a bit more transitional threat from us and someone that can just a real sprinter in the team. And it's why I know you're not going to like this one, Jack, but why I wouldn't be against someone like Marcus Rashford, because he can. I thought you were going to say
Mudryk. Sorry, carry on.
No. With Mudryk, he's someone that I think you need to rebuild his confidence and do a lot of development work. Whereas with Havertz, it was just rebuilding his confidence. And I don't think we're in a place to do everything with Mudryk at this point. But with someone like Rashford, he's got the pace, he's a great ball striker, he scores goals. And I also think our squad is at the point now where the dressing room is so strong, one player isn't going to destabilise that. And I think Rashford's probably more in need of a change than anything. So, again...
He's not going anywhere, though, right? This is what you want, but he's not. He doesn't look like he's going anywhere. They look like they've got faith in him still.
There were rumours at the beginning of the window, but I guess no one's come in for him. Maybe United would sell if someone came in, but the reality is I've got genuinely no idea at this point of the window who we would look to. I do like that Asprilla from Watford as well. I think he looks like a really good player.
I've heard of him.
But yeah, again, it's that, are we going to sign a player from the Championship? So...
yeah, can't see it.
It's really difficult.
Even with the Adingra one, he didn't start for Brighton. He's not starting for them. I mean, the other Brighton player, obviously, to talk about is Matoma. I mean, he's a fantastic player who could play on both sides. He would really be, I think, a player that would come in and I think potentially start ahead of Martinelli Matoma. I mean, I think he's that good. And that's what you want, right? You want a player that can come in and start. Do we really want to spend money on someone that might potentially get there? So I think it doesn't feel like Arteta will do that. But maybe if that's all our option, does he just get someone that's better than Eddie and Nelson? If we get rid of him, like you said, Neil, we're not going to get someone if not. My personal choice is if we do get rid of Eddie and it's a 9, the more I watch of Gutierrez, I actually really like what I watch of him. I mean, his goals and assist ratio is insane. Even in Portugal, I mean, the fact that he gets double figures for both is kind of rare for a number 9, I would say. And obviously, he didn't do it in the Premier League, but in the Championship, he had like similar goal and assist ratio as well for Coventry, didn't he? But he's a little bit peaking at a little bit of a older age, like no one really knew about him at 22, 23, and now he's coming through, but kind of interesting. But on a wide forward, yeah, Kudus would be the ideal one. Matoma, I think, is fantastic as well. But I think one thing to just slightly think about is a lot of the sales we're talking about are all homegrown, right? And I never really know where we sit with homegrown. But if we do end up getting Ramsdale off the books and Eddie off the books and Nelson off the books, we may have a little homegrown issue there where we might have to look to get in a homegrown one. And I know, Adam, that would play into your Rashford one. But again, if we look cheap, Alanga is probably someone that fits the bill in terms of really fast transitional. But again, he's not someone that you would look at and go, Alanga's going to start for Arsenal Football Club. And that would be the slight problem there. You'd be another rotational sort of player. And I know Bakayoko's another one that's been made. Basically, we need to do something. We need to do something that is better than Eddie and Nelson, minimum, in my opinion. And if the Eddie sale is what's cost it, then I'll be really frustrated because the bids were clearly there. 23 million, in my opinion, was not disrespectful for a player like Eddie Nketiah on 100 grand a week. It wasn't fantastic, but you could walk away with that and be like, he's, in my opinion, now 4th choice number 9. 23 million for your 4th choice number 9 isn't that bad. I don't know where people are getting all this sort of 35, 40 million. Charles Watts was saying, he thinks he's 40 million. That's like saying my house is worth 2.5 million, but no one's going to pay more than 900 grand for it. That is pointless. No one's paying that for Eddie Nketiah unless you've drugged them. Like, they're not paying it. So I don't know where that's come from. Everyone was saying that about Tierney last year. 50 million Kieran Tierney. I mean, his legs are made of mashed potatoes. No one's going to pay it. So I just found it a bit strange, very, very odd. But fingers crossed, I think we're all in agreement. We've got to do something in the forward line that ideally just raises the level from Eddie and Nelson. Does it have to be the elite one that we wanted maybe at the start of the window? No, not necessarily. But it's got to be something where if something does happen to Saka or to Martinelli again, and you need that type of player, can we bring him on? Because at the moment, Trossard and Jesus, they are fantastic, but they are similar in terms of ball to feet. They don't have that pace to run at defenders, that typical winger that we're thinking of. But just before we go, I want to get predictions. A really, really difficult game coming up, and I've ran way over time. Really difficult game coming up. Obviously, 2 terrible results against Villa. Emery loves playing against us. We know how good Emery is generally at home. Right, you know, all his teams, even Arsenal, really, really good in big games at home, and he's done the same thing. He's done really well in the transfer market again. Onana's come in. They've brought a couple of other players in, you know, and they look really, really strong again. I watched them against West Ham, and they look quite strong, though they did give up a fair amount of chances. Neil, predictions might have to change a couple of things, I think. What's your thoughts?
I think we might have to change a couple of things. I'm just glad that we didn't have them first game of the season away. That's all I'm going to say. I'm glad that we've got the Wolves game out of the way so that we found our feet hopefully a little bit for this one. It's going to be incredibly... I think now this is going to be one of our... what the old top 4 or top 6 game was. I think Villa is now one of those. I think they're that good. I won't be surprised if they're going to finish in the top 4 again this season. By the way, very, very strong. And you're right, Emery just seems to know how to deal with us, let alone other teams, but especially us. He's had the one-upmanship on the Arteta so far, hasn't he? So, you know, we've got to be very careful. I like to think that we will somehow break the hoodoo of last season. I don't want to end up on the end of a 3rd loss to them in a row in the league, he's got to tinker with the squad slightly. Like we said, we saw a bit of Timber. Maybe he may come in. I mean, I think I'll still be a little bit surprised if he starts him, but you never know. I think there'll be some few tweaks to the lineup. I hope Rice will be back and fit for that because we need him for that game. By the way, because I don't know what the talk is. I'm hoping it was just cramp that he went off with, but being in the stadium, no one had any idea what the hell was going on at the time. I think it's going to be a tough game, and I don't want to go into it too much. Do you know what? I'm going to be quite pessimistic for a change. I'm going to go for a 1-0. I'm not going to say anything higher than that.
That is not pessimistic, Neil. That is a fantastic result, and I'll be delighted. I'll give you a big kiss on the cheek with that one.
1-0, and it will be. Do you know what? It's going to be 1-0 Odegaard.
Love that. Like to shoot in a bit more from the edge of the box in this game. We need to do that more. You said about White doing it. We need to take that. Odegaard needs a little hint of big chubster Frank Lampard in his game. That's what he needs. A little bit of that, and honestly, goals will fly. Adam, 1-0 from Neil. What are you going for?
I'd be very happy with the 1-0. I think Villa looked edgy at times against West Ham. Right before they got their second, because Ollie Watkins struggled a bit in that game. He looked a bit leggy himself. When John Duran came on, he provided a bit of energy, but I thought West Ham could have punished them at times. And I really thought Villa could have lost that game. It was one of those, it was on a knife edge when they scored. If we go and win 1-0, I'll be very happy. I would probably bring Timber in if he's ready for Zinchenko. I just think with Leon Bailey down that side, Zinchenko will really struggle. So let's not make any mistakes. Let's go and keep the game tight, get a 1-0. I'd be very, very happy with that. And I'm going to match Neil's 1-0 with a Havertz header.
Havertz header. Well, yeah, last season, in fairness there, I felt at home we were quite poor when we lost to them, especially second half. But away, there was a lot of controversy about that away loss. We started poorly, but we actually dominated that game, if you remember. It was a very, very frustrating game to play against their high line. So it'll be very interesting to see. I think he might make 2 changes in this game, despite the fact that Martinelli's pace seems like it's perfect for this. What isn't perfect for this is his lack of clinical ability when he gets through. So I think he might bring Trossard in, actually, and I think he might bring Timber in. I think he might change that left side quite a bit, but I could be wrong entirely on that. Hopefully we've got 1 or 2 new faces in the squad as well. But I'll go 2-1 Arsenal, and I'll go Saka, first goal scorer. So, but that'll be. I mean, this is a huge game, definitely. I think one of our hardest games of the whole season. So we've got to be ready. Yeah, and like you said, hopefully a couple of our players get their full fitness back, because we're really going to need them. Boys, been great chatting to you. I know I overran a little bit. Really, really enjoyed it. Let's see what happens in the market. Let's see what happens with Arsenal next weekend, and we'll be back after the Arsenal Villa game away, 5:30, I think it is, on Saturday. Adam, thank you so much. Please listen to Arsenal Therapy podcast. Adam's on it regularly. They're way more regular than us, way more efficient. So listen to that, and we'll have Adam back on soon. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Neil. Thank you to everyone that's listening. We're at Purely Arsenal FP. Appreciate you all. Up the Arsenal.